being here today for Research Wings and Other Things. This is an event that is co-hosted by the Research Society as well as Undergraduate Research, the Internship and Prior Learning Office, and the Career Development Center. And so we'll take a couple minutes and have each of these kind of entities come up and talk a little bit about how they are involved in promoting undergraduate research here at UIS. So maybe we'll begin with Dr. Keenan Dungy, who is in charge of undergraduate research here.
Thanks, Dr. Shen. So I'm Dr. Keenan Dungy, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Research and Institutional Effectiveness. And we have an undergraduate research support program which has funding and activities, like we co-sponsor this workshop, for students in any discipline, any kind of creative or scholarly activity. We want to promote your activities outside of class. That gives you opportunity to work with faculty in a more one-on-one setting, which we'll hear about with today's panel. And there are handouts at your table about the undergraduate research support program. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I look forward to our discussion today. Thanks.
And hi, I'm Frances Shen, faculty in psychology, but also the faculty advisor for the Research Society, which is a student group on campus that helps promote undergraduate research. And we'll have Ben Schulte come up, who is our vice president, and talk a little bit about the organization.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Shen. My name is Benjamin Schulte. I'm a senior here, undergrad at UIS. I'm a psychology student. I'm from St. Louis, and as Dr. Shen said, I'm vice president of the Research Society. What we try to do as a student organization is support undergraduate and graduate researchers. And we do that by helping connect faculty and students together who have interests that align, and helping them form a working relationship together. We also help students become aware of different opportunities and different funding opportunities, especially the undergraduate support research grants that any student can apply for. But other than that, a little bit about myself. I've been working on a few research teams here at UIS, both in the psychology department and the College of Business and Management, as well as an internship at the SIU School of Medicine. So, thank you very much.
So the Career Development Center is also a co-sponsor of this event, and so we have Kristen Nisbet-White here to talk a little bit about their role in undergraduate research.
Hello everyone. Again, yes, my name is Kristen Nisbet-White, and I'm a member of the Career Development Center here at UIS. And so we really love this event because it's a great way to start thinking about ways that you can build your skill set. So there's a lot of research out there. So one, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE, puts out a report every year in terms of skills that they're looking for in new hires. So they survey employers and ask what skills they're looking for, and consistently skills like detail orientation, being able to work as part of a team, being able to communicate effectively, they're always on the list. And research can be a great way to hone those skills. So one, working as part of a team, presenting on your research, spending time to really develop something is a great way to develop a skill set that you can speak about in an interview, that you can document on your resume, and our office can help you do that. You'll also find some handouts on your table. So one about documenting academic or volunteer projects on your resume, and then just a general handout about our services. But we're here to support you, and we want to see you take advantage of all those skill building opportunities while you're here as a student, and research is one of them. So thank you so much. And then are we turning it over to the Internships and Prior Learning Office?
Thanks, Kristen. My name is Rob Weiss, and I'm coordinator of internships and prior learning. And we're going to focus particularly on the internship component, and that's where you have the opportunity to engage employers and other individuals in a work setting. When Kristen was talking about those skill sets that employers look for, internships are a perfect way to be able to apply those out in the world. And it looks phenomenal on your resume when you can demonstrate that you've had that kind of experience. And Ben, I think you've been in one of our classes, which is awesome to see you here, so hi. And so it's amazing to see the kinds of work that our students are doing, whether it's research or assisting in offices with doing the good work that a number of companies and not-for-profits are doing. And so we are a resource that we would love to help you in terms of not only finding your internship, but we're a class. And it's a class designed to capture the learning that you're doing in your internship. And I think that's important because when you're able to capture that data of what learning you're doing, that data can then be applied into a portfolio or a resume or an interview. And so in my world, I believe that internships are just perfect and necessary. I do want to give a shout out to my colleagues, Rachel and Elizabeth, who also work in internship and prior learning. They're here today as well. So if you do have any questions for any of us regarding internship experiences or projects, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Okay, so for this event, we have a number of special guests here today to serve as a panel. All of them are involved in promoting or engaged in working with undergraduate students in research. We have Dr. Torrey here from the SIU School of Medicine. He's the Associate Dean of Research there. And then a number of faculty as well as students who are engaged in research with undergraduate students. In a little bit, we'll open up the panel, have them introduce themselves, and then you guys are welcome to ask questions. For the second half of the event, you'll have some time to be able to sit at the tables and talk to the different panel members. So if you have particular interests or have some questions or things that you would like to talk with them one-on-one, you will have the opportunity to do that as well. Also for the panel, students who ask questions will be able to select a prize that we have prepared here for you today. So we encourage you to ask lots of questions. And then at the very end, we will also do a lottery drawing for prizes as well. So if we want to begin by having our panel members introduce themselves, talk maybe a little bit about what kind of research you're currently engaged in and how you are working with undergraduate students or promoting the work of undergraduate students in research. Dr. Torrey, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Keene, for inviting me. First of all, I'm Don Torrey, Associate Dean for Research for the School of Medicine. We have partnered with UIS to make available internship research projects at the School of Medicine. I've had students from UIS in my lab. In fact, I hired 2 of them as technicians that were in my lab for about 8 or 9 years, and they went on to bigger and better things from my laboratory. But as an official from the school, I encourage you to reach out to me if you have an interest in doing biomedical research. My project is in pregnancy research and primarily in complicated pregnancies of preeclampsia and intrauterine growth retardation. But I really want to spend more time talking to you from an institutional perspective on the research that's available on the campus just across town. What we find is that many of you don't know a lot about the research that goes on at the School of Medicine, and that's shame on me. I tend to fix that right away. We have about 140 or 50 full-time faculty engaged in research. Some are clinicians, about half are clinicians, half are PhDs. The projects run the gamut from bench research in the laboratory, looking at cells and manipulating cells in the dish. We have all the way up to bedside clinical trials. We encourage students to get involved at any of those stages along there. I think Ben is involved at one that deals with patients directly. Some of ours, you might be restricted a little bit in terms of what you can do with a patient based on your expertise and experience, but we'll get you the training and the IRB clearance so that you can at least participate in some of that research with patients at the bedside. We have medical education research, so education research in general, and then we also have public health type of research as well, with big data analyses of disease modalities and particularly in rural communities here in central and southern Illinois. So I have a handout for you that if you're at my table or just swing by, I'll give it to you. We have a contact person, and then we'll work very closely with our internship partners at UIS to get you linked up in terms of what it takes to get you either course credit. Some of our internships are paid interns. It kind of depends on who has money, who has the research dollars to support those. So some are paid and some are not. But certainly I encourage you to talk to the PIs. If you're not sure what it is you want to do, just contact me. We'll have a discussion and we can talk about maybe what interests you, and I can at least point you in that direction, be it in my lab or someone else's lab. So again, thank you, Dr. Keenan, Dr. Dungy, for inviting me, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk about the School of Medicine here.
Thanks, Dr. Torrey. Glad you could join us today. This is a really great opportunity. The SAU School of Medicine is like 10-15 minutes away, and the faculty need undergraduates to work with them on the projects, and they don't have access to undergraduate except us. So it's a great opportunity for you guys, especially pre-med or thinking about medical research or something like that. So my background, I'm Dr. Keenan Dungy. I'm a chemistry professor and now a research administrator. And my chemistry projects, I did an undergrad summer research project back when I was your age. There was a time when I was young. And that's really what launched my interest and career in research and graduate school and going into higher education. And the research I'm doing today deals with nanotechnology and environmental remediation. And so there's bench work, lab work, but then there's also field work. We have a field research site at the Wilson Field Station at Emiquon, and Dr. Tom Rothfuss is the director of that field station, so there are also opportunities for students to get out in the real world where there are plants and animals and birds and fish and things like that. So what I work with is super tiny nanoparticles. You can't see them except with super powerful microscopes. But they have the properties they can remove nutrient pollution. And the student who worked on the project with me last year, Natalie Kerr, who's the president of the Research Society this year, she couldn't be here today because she went and presented. She was selected one of 100 people around the world to present in Berlin for the Falling Walls Lab, which is the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. So she presented there just this weekend, so she's traveling back from that. But I'd like to say all of my students end up on the international scene, but some could. You could be that student. Anyway, so thanks.
Thanks. All right, and like I said before, I'm Ben. I'm an undergraduate student here at UIS. And I've been on a few research teams here. I've worked on subjects such as implicit biases and how those affect selection committees, especially when people are looking at different candidates. How does race and ethnicity play a role in how visible those candidates are to selection committees? And I've also done research on workplace incivility, which is rude or disrespectful behavior in the workplace, and how we can combat it, especially using reference checks. And I've been able to present some of my research at some great undergraduate conferences like STARS here at UIS. That's the Student Technology, Arts, and Research Symposium that we hold every year here in April. And I've also been to the National Conference on Undergraduate Research over the past year. That was at Kennesaw State University. And just recently, last week, I had the great opportunity to attend the Work, Stress, and Health Conference in Philadelphia. And that's not just an undergraduate conference, but a conference in which many of the prominent members of the field in industrial organizational psychology, as well as management, all come together to share their ideas and present some posters or some talking sessions or something like that. So I got to immerse myself in that huge vast of knowledge that people holding that and just be able to experience all of that. But also, as has been alluded to, I have an internship at the SIU School of Medicine in the psychiatry department. I work on a study called the Cognitive Aging Longitudinal Study. And what I do is I'm able to administer neuropsychological batteries. So in other words, administer some tests to some participants in order to gauge their cognitive functions and also to collect data on how Alzheimer's or a lack thereof affects people as they age. So I've been able to contribute to my scientific field already as an undergraduate, and it feels great, and it feels like I'm able to do something meaningful here with my undergraduate education. And hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little bit about how you can do that as well. Thanks.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Michelle Miller. I'm an associate professor in the psychology department. I've been here since 2012, and from then to now I have individually mentored closely one-on-one nearly 20 undergrads and graduate students. And I am an educational psychologist by training, so a lot of my work actually bridges into education. I study child development, and in particular social emotional development, temperament, and early readiness for school. Students have been involved in all facets of research with me, including from the very beginning, developing questionnaires, designing the physical lab space, which is sort of looks like a little preschool space for 3-year-olds, recruiting teachers, recruiting families, working one-on-one, hands-on with families and 3-year-olds that have come into the lab, helping me to administer a test of cognitive skills with those children and also do some assessments of their social emotional behaviors and temperament. And they've also obviously done a lot in terms of the analyses with me, write-up presentations. My students routinely present here at STARS and also in Chicago at the Midwestern Psychological Association Conference. With the Society for Research in Child Development, I've also taken students further than Chicago. Most recently, we've been presenting some of our data in Austin, Texas, which was a fun trip too. And just this last January, a former undergraduate student and I actually published a piece in the Early Childhood Education Journal. So that's a really cool opportunity that can happen in terms of getting a published authorship. As an undergrad or shortly after graduation. And that work looked at comparing parents and teachers' ideas of what is most important for being ready for school, finding actually some cool results that they don't differ, they don't disagree on those things, which is really great for those little kids. They're getting consistent messages in preparation for school. Currently, my students are working on investigating issues of anger and inhibitory control and how that can affect cognitive performance. And I'm getting ready to launch a new line of research looking at trauma-informed practices in the school teachers in District 186. And so helping to support teachers who routinely work with children with emotional and behavioral challenges, often stemming from childhood trauma, and how to better help them succeed in the classroom. So that's kind of a cool new area that I'll need some help with, at least, getting started for sure. So yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
I'm Noah Reynolds. I'm an assistant professor in biology. Just in my second year here, I've had a couple undergrad students. I've had 2. One of them's here, Brianna, so you can ask her about working in the lab. So I do mostly molecular biology and biochemistry work, and we're working on the regulation of protein synthesis. So how modifications of proteins end up causing protein synthesis to be altered in cells. And we do everything from, like I said, molecular biology and biochemistry, genetics, microbiology type work, so do an array of work in the lab. I went to undergrad here and I did an internship at SIU, so I can say SIU is a great place for an internship. And I've supervised a few of them as well at SIU. So if you want to talk about molecular biology kind of stuff, it's the kind of work we do, and yeah, that's okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Sudeep Sharma. I'm a faculty in the Department of Management. My area of specialization is organizational behavior. We just basically examine how psychological concepts, which Michelle does in her department or the department psychology area, how they can be executed and implemented in work setting. And my special area is negotiation and conflict management. I specifically examine who are better negotiators, who can buy the car more effectively with lesser price than people who are, as compared to other people, who can buy a house in cheaper price than others. So who are better negotiators, why some people are better negotiators than others, that's what I examine. And I found in my research that personality matters a lot. Some people are better because their personality, their emotional intelligence, they can manage their emotion effectively. So I talk about my research in my class, and many students come to me and then say, hey, Professor, your research is interesting and we want to work with you. And this has been, I joined UIS in 2015, and since then there are 7 students, both undergrad and graduate, they joined my research. Some of them, they wanted to do further study, they wanted to go for master. For example, I had a student, undergraduate student, Turner Clark, who just graduated. He worked with me in my research, and he got interested in my research because I was working with police officers with FBI in Florida as well as in St. Louis, that how police are, why, if some police officers are better negotiators in terms of hostage crisis or in like a criminal investigation kind of situation. And he got interest because he wanted to do job in FBI after his few years down the line. And he worked with me, we presented in STARS and different conferences. He worked with me in another conference, presented paper there. One student, he got interest because he wanted to work with data, statistics, where I do lots of empirical research, where you have to play around with the data with different software. And both these students wanted to work with data and learn something from statistics with me. One that student, graduate student, got job in Facebook after doing all the research what he was doing with me, and he used that research experience on his CV, and that was very helpful for him to get a job in Facebook. So I'm just giving an example of how when you work with faculty on undergraduate research, it doesn't mean that you want to do a PhD or you want to do a master's. That can also be helpful for you to get a good internship or a good job. And that has been a case with many of my students. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
So we'd like to open this time up for questions from you, the audience.
This for Ben and Dr. Michelle. What prior knowledge would you like from us, like from people wanting to join your team?
So I think you're saying what am I looking for in a research assistant?
Yep.
So I'll start, and then feel free to say kind of what you think made you a good candidate. But honestly, I'm willing to mentor from the ground up if need be, and I have often done that. I don't need you to have a lot of research experience or even sort of know a lot about the process before we start. I want you to have an open mind. I want you to be a hard worker, and I certainly want you to be interested in the types of things I'm doing so that it motivates you. but everything as far as the research process can be mentored, can be taught, and I have a lot of experience in doing that. So I think some students do kind of hesitate to approach us because they feel that they don't really know what they're doing, but that's our job. Like, that's my job. So I just an interest in the kinds of things I'm doing, good work ethic, and we'll get you the pieces you need. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say that aligns well with my experience. Going into my first research experiences, the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year, I had very little experience in the research realm itself. I didn't know much about the jargon of the field, also the IRB process and the data collection process and all of that. I didn't know much about it. But the research experience, being inside of it and being able to have a mentor like Dr. Miller or someone else is really helpful, especially to undergraduate students. It helped me learn a lot. And although I don't think I'm quite ready to be an independent researcher, it has it's made me more confident as a researcher and more confident in my work. So that being said, really no prerequisites except if you're a psychology student, the research methods class is a very good class to take. It's required, but it's really good class to take early on so that you learn some of the ins and outs of how research is conducted and also the ethics of research and all that good stuff. So that's a really good class to have. But other than that, I'd say most people are going into it pretty fresh, and I wouldn't let that discourage you.
Other questions?
There are also some example questions at the table.
Yep, in the back.
This is for Dr. Torrey. I just want to know if SIU offers summer internships instead of like all semester long, 2 semesters? Like just a summer one?
I'll ask you guys. For us, it doesn't matter. We certainly have students that come for the summer as well. Do they get credit and things? Because I don't know that part of
It
it.
sounds like there are opportunities at the school medicine.
Certainly.
And there's an opportunity for you to get credit for it through our office. Thank you.
For Dr. Torrey, do you need to be pursuing a medical degree for the research at SIU?
Sorry?
Do you need to be pursuing a medical degree for the research at SIU?
Oh, heavens, no. No. I think like Dr. Miller said, what most of the faculty, certainly I would look for, is a student that's curious and hardworking. Everything else we can teach you about research, but if you have that inner drive, that would make you a fantastic candidate for any of our research internships at the School of Medicine. But particularly for mine, I look for curiosity and somebody motivated to work hard. The rest, that's why you're there, is to learn about research, and that's my job. And I have graduate students, we have residents as well in the laboratory, so you'll have colleagues there to help you to learn the ins and outs of the research and the details about the research itself. So, but yeah, prerequisite to come to SIU for a School of Medicine, to be an MD, oh heavens no. No.
Yeah, this is a question for Ben. And actually, it's 2 questions, one with a follow-up. So the first question is, Ben, when you were a freshman, did you imagine that you'd be doing this kind of work? Let's start with that question.
Yeah, when I was a freshman, I was actually an English major, and so I knew I liked to read and I knew I liked to write, but I didn't know what I wanted to read or write about. So I chose English as kind of a route for that. But no, my freshman year, I never suspected that I'd be, actually contributing knowledge to the field in which I work. It's so crazy to me now because I guess freshman year me was just thinking, get your bachelor's and get out, and then find some kind of lucrative position. But Now I've found out that's not now I've found out that that's not the case. I've actually, like I said, I found a lot of meaning through my research, and I've actually solidified my goal to be a researcher. So now I do want to be a researcher, and so yeah, just I guess getting into the field and taking some psychology classes got the wheel going.
Can you say a little bit more about how you got to the next step and the next step and the next step? Because each step is uncomfortable, right? So can you say more about that?
Right. So whenever I formed an interest in psychology after taking a couple of classes, I began to do some reading outside of my classes. I would, maybe read a scholarly article here or there, maybe pick up a book from the library or something like that. That way I can get some kind of information about what I wanted to learn about. So I eventually narrowed down my interest of broad psychology to the interest of industrial organizational psychology. So in that, in case you're not familiar with it, it's about organized behavior, much like what Dr. Sharma studies, except he's in the organizational branch a little bit different. So once I found out that I wanted to go into IO psychology, I looked for faculty members here that were IO psychologists. And I found Dr. Walsh, who's in the College of Business and Management. He got a PhD in IO psychology. And all it took was a simple email. I shot him an email saying, hey, I'm interested in what you study. Do you have any work that you need help on that I could help with? And he said, yeah, of course. And because he's always doing work and he needs help. But he told me to take his class, his managing organizational behavior class, just to see if I really did find it interesting. And I took the class and I found it interesting, and that just segued right into my working relationship with him, and I'm still working with him to this day.
Thank you.
This is for anyone, but what would I expect in a research field? What should I expect to receive, except for experience and things like that?
So you're asking what would you expect to get out of the experience?
Besides experience.
Besides experience?
So what benefits?
Yeah, what other benefits?
Getting involved in research might have for undergraduate students?
Yeah, so I guess to put it bluntly, you can get college credit. And the college credit applies to your HA, experiential learning, or elective. So you can take care of college requirements. It's just kind of basic benefit right there. But there's lots of other benefits of it.
At least like in the sciences, you're going to get skills. I mean, just direct skills that can be applied. Everything from problem solving skills to like in the lab working with your hands and learning how to do things.
And as I mentioned earlier in my statement that the research experience can help you if you are planning for graduate school, if you are applying for master's or PhD program, that can be helpful. It can be helpful for your jobs. The skills you are learning that may be helpful. As I mentioned, I had a student who got the job just because they were doing statistical analysis. They learned about empirical research. That can be another benefit you can have.
Yeah, and forging relationships with professors is also a really important additional benefit. So the students that I know, that I've worked with, when certain opportunities come my way, I think of them. And those are the people that get those offers, and those are the people that get really good letters of recommendation from me and really good, references to do other types of things outside of campus. So there's a lot of sort of side benefits too.
Yeah, and just outside skills, experience, and career choices. It's pretty fun to do research. And you get to travel to places to present your research. Like for example, I got to go to Georgia and Pennsylvania recently. And it's not, whenever you're there, it's not solely just, learning about your discipline. I mean, I got to see stuff in Atlanta and see stuff in Philadelphia that I wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. Like I saw the Rocky Steps and I ran up them. And that was a great experience that I would have only gotten because I had the opportunity to do some research and try to
It's a heck of a workout, I've done it too.
It is.
I think another thing that you get from this is those critical thinking skills that can be applied anywhere. It doesn't matter where you go next. As we heard, employers are looking for that. And you can talk the talk now because you can say, I did this internship, here's what I did, here's what I found. At a deeper level, certainly than a lot of other students may be able to communicate at. And that will resonate with whatever that next level is that you're trying to get to, be it graduate school, medical school, job, wherever it is. That will resonate deeply.
And one thing I'd like to also add to that is just mentorship. So because of that relationship, like Dr. Miller mentioned, that you developed with a research supervisor, that they also then mentor you in other areas. So in your own professional development, when you're thinking about applying for jobs, when you're thinking about graduate school, when you're thinking about that next step, having a faculty member who can kind of help give you that guidance, that mentorship in that direction.
My question for Dr. Reynolds. So you said you were working with protein synthesis, but are you working with it in general? Is there a specific organism you're working with to study?
So mostly I work with yeast. I work with Saccharomyces cerevisiae. There's some bacterial work in it, but what we're specifically working on is proteins that put the amino acid on the tRNA, called amino-acid tRNA synthetases. And we work how modifications of those are regulating protein synthesis. And so it's everything from getting the new, if you're interested in like some genetic stuff, but a lot of biochemistry, protein purification kind of stuff.
Hi, I'm a chemistry major, and as an international student, so my concern is where to stay in the summer. So for the paid internship, is this separate for the living cost that get paid, or is it just getting paid? Does it paid internship offer the covering living cost as a minimum?
So we don't have usually paid internships on campus, but at the med school,
We do have some. I don't remember. It's a wage where you'll be able to survive, but you're not getting rich. HR, we couldn't tell you exactly what it is. I want to say it's $11 an hour or 11 and a half. I don't know exactly, but it's somewhere in that range. It's not $40 an hour or something like that. So you'll survive, but you're probably not going to get rich.
I have a quick question. It's okay for panel members. When should students start thinking about getting involved in research?
Yeah, right away, I think. It'd be a good thing to talk with your academic advisor, talk with one of your faculty, your favorite teacher, and because there's always opportunities. There's opportunities in every department, there's opportunities at different times during the year. There's handouts on your tables about opportunities, international opportunities, that there's deadlines for. If you're thinking summer research this coming summer, the deadlines are usually around December. So you need to start thinking about that now so you get those applications in, make those connections with a researcher at the med school to set up that internship. So I would say anytime's a good time to start.
I would say sooner than later. We see that a lot where students are maybe in their senior year and they want to try to get a project and there's just not enough time for it to develop very well, to be honest. And it takes some time, as Ben can, would you say, Ben, 20 hours a week, maybe? So there's some time involved, and you have to make sure to balance that with your studies and make sure you can do both of those and do them well.
Yeah, and even if you're not sure where to go just yet, something you can always do is reading. That's something that really jumpstarted me to get into research, is just reading the relevant literature. I mean, going through a scholarly article and reading it and comprehending it is a tough task, and I still have difficulty doing that. So just practicing that and learning about what kinds of words the researchers use, what are the theories in the field, how are people finding out stuff, like what kind of methods do they use. Just reading about all that will put you in a good frame of mind to get started on some research.
I agree with my colleagues saying, it's never really too early, and getting involved early is important, but I also want to, buffer that by saying it's not too late. I think sometimes this message gets communicated and juniors and seniors are thinking, oh, then I guess research is just not going to be for me. I have had students start a little bit later because they finally figured out what they want to major in, what they want to do, what really excites them. And it may mean that, that you spend a little bit more time doing research before you apply to your favorite graduate program, or you work with me over the summer, or you have an extra year where, you're in a graduate program, but we're still working on stuff together too. And that's okay, that happens. I mean, it might push some of your other things a little bit further, but I don't want you to feel like if you didn't start thinking about this as a freshman that it's not an option.
Question is for all of you. What keeps you motivated to continue doing research, especially if you hit a rough patch or something doesn't go exactly according to your carefully laid out plans for research? But what keeps you motivated to continue to go back and continue that knowledge discovery through research?
Oh, that's a great question. So 75% of experiments fail. So your carefully laid plans are doomed. But it's that, like Dr. Torrey was saying, that inner curiosity, that inner drive, that you're asking some hopefully questions that are interesting to you. That's why you got started, and so you're driven to try to find that answer. So that, and then sometimes, if after you break the third piece of glassware, you're supposed to go home, come back the next day. But every day, I think in the research project, there's different aspects, and so that can kind of, you can work on something different if you're hitting a roadblock in one part.
Yeah, like Dr. Dungy said, it's all about the passion you have for what you study. I mean, anyone can study anything, but what's going to get you through the times where you're racking your head against the wall is going to be your passion for that subject. And your drive to figure out, why did this result not turn out the way I wanted it to? What happened with this variable? All that stuff is going to be driven by your passion.
I want to give an example of one paper which I wrote with one of my students. It got rejected 6 times. From top journal to lower journal. And I was just thinking that, really, did I do something wrong with this work? And my student was asking this question, what did you do, professor? And what kind of idea we did it? And then we were discussing about that idea, and we felt that this work really matters for the organization and for the community. And then we submitted again to a very top journal, and it got accepted. So sometimes, this persistence is very important, that the passion and the persistence, if they don't work together, and patience for sure. If you don't have patience, then I think you are the wrong field, to be honest. Because we fail sometimes. We cannot succeed every time. So that helps us.
certainly in the biological sciences, a lot of experiments fail. And it can be frustrating, but really like the discovery of like one new thing, like I think that keeps me motivated for a long time. Just seeing little things, you see something new that no one's ever seen before, like that's pretty exciting. And that keeps me through all the times of stuff not going right. And I mean, at least in my field, I'd say 75% failure rate is pretty good.
So, say I was a student at UIS and I was looking into starting to do some research projects. What would be the resources available on campus to either help me find an advisor or find potential funding sources or something like that that may be beneficial as I go forward?
So go to go.uis.edu/student-research. And that's where you'll find a lot of resources. We try to make it as comprehensive as possible. So we have a list of potential mentors that you can search by department or topic. We have an undergrad student research fund that you can apply to. It's a rolling program, so it provides up to $1,000 for research expenses, including travel. And we also have a list of conferences you can go to. We also have information there about STARS, our on-campus conference. And the abstract submission is open now. So any stage of the project, we try to have resources there to help you. There's contact information there for myself. Charles here, manning the camera, is our LLE student assistant in the office, so he can also answer questions for undergrad student research.
And, I can add the School of Medicine has a database as well of PIs interested in students helping with research, and broken by department, but I can give that out to anyone that emails me as well, and you can feel free to look through there for projects.
I'll also say, I think an important resource is your faculty. Like, talk to them. Like, you know, if you're interested in ecology, I don't do that, but I could tell you who to go to. I mean, I had students come to me talking about, you know, what they were interested in. I don't do that, and I said, oh, I know this person at SIU. That's who you should talk to about this. So I think talking to the faculty about just things you're interested in, even if maybe that's not their area, they can point you to the right way.
And I'll use this as an opportunity to say, join the Research Society. You can join us on US Connection, but we like to put on events that connect students and faculty, and you know, just help people learn about what other students are doing and what kind of research they're performing.
Any other questions for our panel members?
I was just wondering, does UIS provide internship for students? I don't know if they already answered this, but do they like find internship for students, or you have to go find it yourself and tell them about it?
Maybe it might be a question for Rachel.
Our office is offering internships in prior learning, and so we work with students to find those opportunities and search for them, and then help you apply for those and learn how to get credit from those as well. So yeah, we can chat a little bit afterwards.
Any last questions? Okay, well, a round of applause for our panel members, please. Thank you so much for being here today. We will now have the opportunity to break for some food in the back, so you're welcome to that, and then we'll have our panel members actually spread out kind of across the tables, and you're welcome to meet with them one-on-one and talk about opportunities to get involved, or if you have any additional questions that you would like to speak with them individually about, you can do that. So thank you so much.